Just an editor's note before we start this week's episode. We are still getting used to our isolation setup, and as a result, there's a lot of technical difficulties we're still trying to iron out. So do forgive some uneven audio and a few technical hiccups in this week's episode. In particular, we've been forced to switch to the backup track about halfway through, so you might notice a sudden jarring change in audio. I've done my best, but it's not perfect. But hopefully next week we'll have got all these kinks ironed out and we'll be back to our usual quality. So yeah, on with the episode.
The following podcast contains strong language.
Hello and welcome back to the Ciné Rambles podcast. You're listening to Nick.
And Andrew.
And we're back again with some more isolation film stuff.
Yep.
I've been whiling away the hours this week.
No, well, I've been watching a lot of stuff recently, actually.
Yeah? You've been gravitating towards TV or film more?
More TV.
Yeah, because like I sort of go through phases of film or TV, and I'm starting to enter a TV phase in the moment.
It was just because loads of different people have suggested that I watch things, and they've all happened to have been TV programs, so I've just watched a lot of TV programs.
Yeah. I think 'cause there's just so much free time in isolation that something long form like TV just sort of lends itself more to be caught up on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of last week's episode, we've got a mistake to correct.
Yes.
When talking about Altered Carbon. I haven't seen the show and know nothing about it, so I just found the first two highest credited names on the IMDb page for the characters Andy was talking about.
Yep.
That was not the correct actlist.
No, not even vaguely right at all.
You didn't know either.
No, I didn't.
So that should have been Joel Kinnaman for the lead
Yeah.
and Martha Higuereda. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. But
Yep, I'll go with it.
the other one. Yeah?
Yeah, she's the other leading character.
Yeah, is she a female lead then, or is she just like a deuteragonist, or is she just like a secondary character? Or
So she's the detective. So as in, like, she's the actual police detective
Right.
or working the same case as the guy who's not a proper police detective. He's just a rando.
He's just the hanger-on.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
I will be watching that soon, I think.
Yeah.
So have you got any correspondence this week, Andrew?
Yes, we have. So this was in response to my fundamental on a series of unfortunate events.
Mm-hmm.
So a certain viewer said that she felt she prefers Jim Carrey's Count Olaf to Neil Patrick Harris, mainly because she thinks to do a series of unfortunate events properly, like really committed to the books, it would have to be, rated a 15 or whatever to show the same amount of violence and darkness and the tone reflected in the books, despite the books being aimed at young teenagers. And I started reading those books when I was probably like 10. But
then I think particularly just like that pre-teens, like 10 to 13 age, can handle a lot more than a lot of adults give them credit for.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other debate.
To be fair, yeah. Let's not get into the film classification system, because I'll be on about that for hours, about how little sense it makes. But yeah.
But basically what she said was that because they can't do it properly and make it a kids show at the same time, and rather than doing... She prefers Jim Carrey because he fully commits to the more kid side. He doesn't try to be swayed. He tries to be scary, but it's not really scary. It is cartoonishly scary, if you know what I mean. And she prefers that because rather than having the half-baked
so not quite committed to either side.
Neil Patrick Harris, who sometimes is scary and then sometimes does a fucking song, she thinks that's very distracting. Whereas Jim Carrey just goes the whole hog to being the comedy figure instead of the evil figure. I was like, that's actually a really good point, because she's right. Like, he is better in that way, that he fully commits to this role and he's never flip-flopping at all.
Yeah.
Which does work in his favour.
Almost better to have a consistent tone that might be wrong for the story than to have one that's constantly flip-flopping back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a very valid argument there. Because I mean, again,
So
she's
that swayed you then?
yeah. Well, I don't really like the Jim Carrey one. To be fair, I haven't seen it in a while, so I should probably rewatch it. But I never really liked it, again, because it was so far away from the books and because it adds so much unnecessary stuff. But then the series does as well. But then, I mean, she's got that very good point, is that if you take it away from detach it from the books, the Jim Carrey version still holds up because it is the fully cartoonish kids version instead of the halfway in between version that Neil Patrick Harris is in.
Yeah.
Which is okay. So I think I'd have to rewatch the film to see what I think. But yeah, that has changed my mind a bit, because that is a very good point, I think.
Okay, that's definitely a very good point raised. Is there any other correspondence, or is that it for this week?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, and if you'd like to comment on the show and have any response to our segments, you can email us at cinerambles@gmail.com. Okay, so since we don't have much in the way of news this week, let's go straight to Field of Streams. And we've got a suggestion written in to us by one of our viewers. So her name is Penny, and she's recommending The Mandalorian, which is available on our favourite streaming service, Disney+.
Or illegally. Wait, I didn't say that.
On the 7 seas. She
Also,
writes...
Penny's my sister. It's just by the way.
Yeah. Hello, Penny. There's no preferential treatment here, of course.
No.
As someone who is not a massive Star Wars fan, she writes, I was apprehensive going into it because I thought I wouldn't understand any of the context or references to other parts of the universe. Also because I thought Star Wars was boring. Don't at me, bro. So I thought that Mando might follow suit. However, how wrong could I be? The Mandalorian is amazing. It's engaging, has a great storyline, has interesting and likeable / hateable characters, and of course the star of the show, Baby Yoda. How could anyone not love him? The relationship between Mando and Baby Yoda is wonderful as it blossoms and changes, and it's a joy to watch. Basically, even if you don't have any interest in Star Wars whatsoever, I would not write off The Mandalorian until you give it a try, because damn that Baby Yoda cute. That's how she's written it. And the story and action, of course. Rich would also like to add, as someone who does like Star Wars, he also loves it. Therefore, everyone wins. Thus concludes my essay. Keep up the great work, boys. I'm loving all the episodes. Love from Penny. So yeah, Mandalorian.
I love The Mandalorian. I think it's fantastic. I think she's right. Baby Yoda
really
is hella cute.
Yeah, I really love The Mandalorian. And as someone who sort of started to lose interest in Star Wars in recent years, Mandalorian sort of reignited that passion in a way. And I think it sort of taps into what she's talking about in terms of the sort of... Because it is so different from the rest of the Star Wars canon in terms of its sort of its tone, its sort of storytelling, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because if you... Oh, what? Yeah?
Oh, I was just going to say, it's closer, I think, to something like Firefly,
Yes.
than any other Star Wars, really.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think because the interesting thing is Mandalorian, basically, it's a genre switch that we haven't really seen before, because it's much more, like a space western, while other Star Wars has very much been sort of a weird mixture of fairy tale and warfare.
Yeah.
But, it's essentially Lord of the Rings in space in some ways, the normal side of it.
Yeah.
And I think because of the sort of, there's every film so far has basically had the Empire and an analog for the Empire, and there's a rebellion, and there's a lot of sort of background and lore and sort of politics involved with it naturally.
Yes.
And I think why Mandalorian works because it strips away from that. It's happening within this universe, but with sort of only fleeting references to the stuff around it. So you can watch it in isolation, and it feels like part of a larger story without having to understand that larger story, which is why I think it draws so many people in.
Well, the other thing I really like about it is it's set in a time we haven't seen on screen yet.
Yeah.
So it's set 5 years after the Return of the Jedi. So, the collapse of the Empire and all that, it's close enough to the original trilogy, so you still get all that stuff that you remember from it, all the nostalgia,
all the
from that.
iconography.
But it's also got a lot of new stuff and some things that are from the sequel trilogy as well. Like, it's just good. Like, but all the nostalgia and the Star Wars stuff aside, it just really holds up as a good series by itself.
Yeah. And what I always say was, I talk about Return of the Jedi as one of my sort of favourite Star Wars films, almost purely because of the Jabba the Hutt sequence at the beginning, because it was a break from the Empire vs. Rebellion stuff, which was sort of everywhere, and it was this glimpse of this other world of sort of a seedy underbelly that we only ever see briefly in like Mos Eisley Cantina. And I was like, I wish Star Wars was more of this. And then Mandalorian came along and was like, hey, here's more of this. In fact, here's about 5 hours of it. Thank you very much, Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a massive champion for Mandalorian. It's great.
I think a lot of what makes it so good is the writing.
Yeah.
Especially from Jon Favreau. Taika Waititi writes in there as well.
Oh yeah.
There are some.
I think I vaguely remember seeing his credit on it because he voices
the robot IG-11.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I didn't realise he wrote it as well.
Yeah, he wrote the last episode or the second to last episode, I think.
Okay.
I think, and also it's got loads of great actors in it. Pedro Pascal is brilliant as Mando. Even what's his name? Werner Herzog's in it as the bad guy, which is just really random.
Herzog's great though.
He is really good at it, which is a surprise because I was, why is he in this?
There's something great about seeing this such a sort of maverick, famed film director that's appearing in like Star Wars. There's something very satisfying about that.
Yeah,
And I think it ends a certain mystique to his character.
It really does. Like, it's just so strange to see him in that role. There he was. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, I imagine most people have probably checked it out by now. But if you're still skeptical and if you're still like a Star Wars skeptic, just try it because it's not very long and it's fantastic. It's really worth the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mandalorian, but don't buy Disney Plus for it. Go to the Seven Seas.
Go to the Seven Seas.
You didn't hear it from us. Right. Okay, so next film we'd like to recommend is Kajaki, which is available on Netflix, and I believe you'll be familiar with it as well.
Yes.
Because when we watched in A-Level, we watched it at a special screening when we had producer Gareth Unwin come in and give a talk and sort of a Q&A about the film. Who's famous for winning an Oscar for The King's Speech for producing that.
Yes.
Great guy.
He is a lovely man.
Yeah, it was really interesting to talk to. Very inspirational at the time as well. But yeah, so this is a film about some British soldiers in Afghanistan who then get accidentally trapped in a minefield.
It's like an old Russian minefield as well, isn't it? It was like why they had no idea.
It was like a drained lake, I think.
Yeah.
And there's,
but from like the 80s or something when Russia invaded Afghanistan. So it's like really old and they had no idea it was there.
It's one of those sort of really sort of great sort of tense small location thrillers, like think like 12 Angry Men with explosives, but in a sense of that they're all trapped in this one location, and all they have to do is get out. But that's obviously the most difficult thing possible.
All I remember, the tension in that,
it
was insane.
Absolutely edge of your seat.
Yeah.
It's just a really, really solid, really well built thriller. I think there's also a lot of really good acting in it, from what I remember. Like the camaraderie between all the troops was really sort of effective and like sort of believable, and it adds so much drama to the sort of violence that does happen inevitably.
Yeah. I think I don't know, citation needed, but I think some of the actual soldiers cameo in it. Could be wrong.
Yes, that does sound familiar. Yeah, I couldn't say, but that does sound like something I've heard.
Yeah, I just remember something very, very vaguely about the actual soldiers who experienced that and were in Afghanistan. Were in that film as well.
There's definitely been of the people who have seen it, there's been a lot of sort of commendation for being sort of a quite realistic depiction of modern warfare and like sort of what it's actually like being out there. But yeah, it's just because I remember we saw it and it was really fantastic, and yet it's flown almost completely under the radar.
Yeah.
Like I know no one else outside of people in our classes then who've seen it.
Yeah.
But now it's on Netflix. I think it's a great time to sort of shine some light on it because it's sort of a forgotten classic. I feel. It's a really solidly good film.
Also, it's a really good British film as well. I think it's worth pointing out. Like, it's, everyone involved in making it is British, I believe, and it's just I don't know. It's a really, really good film. All of the actors are in it are relatively unknown, I think. I mean, I don't really recognise any of them, really. And I've just got a thing here that says it only made $7,891 in the US box office.
That's criminal.
I mean, that's nothing, is it?
Yeah. It's very sort of criminally sort of underappreciated, I feel. Like, this is absolutely worth checking out. So yeah, thought I'd shine some light on it.
Yeah. It's good. I've got two things I want to recommend, Nick.
Okay.
One of which we're going to do a big talk about, because I want to talk a lot about it, because it's fantastic. Anyway.
Okay.
So the first thing is Killing Eve.
Yes.
Which is a BBC drama. And Series 3 is set to release this month, I believe.
It's this week, I believe.
It's this week?
It might be today.
Well, there you go.
By the time this is out, I think it will have started, yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. Anyway, I've only just started season 1, because Killing Eve sort of skipped me by. Had no idea what it was about. It completely missed me by. I knew people liked it, but again...
Didn't I recommend it to you at some point?
I think you may have done. I'm not sure.
Possibly. Because I was one of the early adopters of it. Because this is written by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who also did Fleabag.
Oh, is it actually?
Recently. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Because I watched the first series of Fleabag when it came out and was, loved it, and no one else seemed to know about it. So I watched this like the moment it came out.
Okay.
But yeah, so I've been sort of a long time fan of both.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that. Well, she is a brilliant writer, so I'm happy to recommend.
In fact, just quickly, I think the reason why she was brought onto the new Bond film may have been because of this. Because there's a similar sort of espionage vibe.
Makes sense. I can see that.
I think that's the connection. Yeah.
Okay. So, for anyone else who missed it, completely passed by, basically the first season at least is about an assassin who is killing like high-ranking targets all over Europe, and she's been operating for years and she's seemingly untraceable, but she starts showing off and whatever. And Eve, who works for MI5. Is it MI5 or MI6? I think it's MI6.
MI6.
Yeah. I can't remember.
The same thing.
Yeah. She starts tracking her. And starts tracking her down, trying to find her, and obviously tried to catch this assassin. So it's like this cat and mouse game. And it's very good. Very good, very solid BBC drama.
BBC America co-production as well.
Is it?
I believe. Which is why it's got a sort of the added budget and production values.
Right. It's got... What was really weird is it's got... I can't remember the actress's name, but she's Aunt Petunia from Harry Potter, and seeing her as anyone other than Aunt Petunia was really, really strange.
How far are you through Killing Eve?
I think I'm about 3-4 episodes into the first season.
Oh, okay. Because I recently started series 2.
Right.
Because I didn't watch it when it came out because I think I had A, uni work, and B, I was watching something else at the time. But now series 3 is coming out, so I was trying to catch up. But yeah, from what I remember series 1 I sort of was good, but season 2 I'm enjoying a lot more.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think I remember roughly what's happening in episode 3 and 4. Obviously, I won't spoil any of the plot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sort of just gets better and better. So I'm looking forward to series 3 because I'm about I think 6 episodes in series 2 at the moment, and yeah, I think it's really good.
It's
Yeah, I also highly recommend it.
yeah, it's really solid. It's also got this sort of feel of, I don't know, like, you know, like all these American shows like NCIS and all that kind of stuff, where it's got like that, but they've made it very, very British. And I really like that. You know, like they work out of a 1-bedroom flat in the middle of London.
Yeah. I also like in general has like quite a darkly comic tone to it, which I think sort of brings it lifts a lot of weight off from the subject matter. Because, you know, a lot of these sort of if you think about sort of espionage thrillers and stuff, they often get quite dense and sort of not dreary as such, but, you know, bogged down. Or something like this is a lot more lighter and sort of,
you can tell
I'd say, more enjoyable.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge's humour touched on it, because there's a lot of excellent, like, not cutaways, but where she chooses to cut is sometimes, you know, hilarious. There's some really excellent writing and editing in there that did really make me laugh. Like, it does frequently make you laugh as well, which is, you know, good.
Yeah, and I think there's something about the way she writes comedy. There's a lot of sort of really down to earth stuff. So in the mix of, again, all this like really dense sort of espionage kind of things, there'll be conversations about like contrastingly down to earth and sort of like trivial topics, which it doesn't sound funny when I say it like that, but like it's a sort of there's this thing Phoebe Waller-Bridge does. We sort of collide sort of like down to earth sort of normalcy and sort of the pettiness of every day with like these big overarching sort of complicated plots, and it somehow makes it a lot more funny. And there's sort of stamp of it.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how to explain it. That was a really bad explanation of what I was trying to talk about. People know what I mean.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you should watch Fleabag as well then.
Well, I've seen half of the first season of Fleabag.
Okay. You should hang on. I'll qualify that. You should watch the first series of Fleabag and the first episode of season 2, and then if you want, you can stop.
Okay.
Just saying. Well, no, that's harsh. But this is a separate conversation.
Okay. Well,
the series 1 of Fleabag is a lot better than series 2. Maybe I'll field the streams out next week.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, Killing Eve, which is available on iPlayer.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be up there for sort of permanently, unless BritBox takes it. On a side note, BritBox, I assume you're familiar with, yeah?
Nope.
Oh, okay. So BritBox it's this new streaming platform that it's sort of a coalition of BBC and ITV trying to compete with Netflix and stuff. So it's going to have like all the BBC shows and ITV shows. I think Channel 4's joined in now. It's going to be like, you know, all the British TV box sets in one place for like, I think it's $5.99 a month.
Okay.
But the thing is, iPlayer still has lots of box sets on it still. So it's, I don't know if anyone switched over, but like, I probably won't get it just because I don't want to have like, I've already got Amazon, Netflix, there's enough subscriptions for me.
But like, I want ad-free?
Yeah, so it's because it's subscription, because you pay for it, so it's ad-free. But then iPlayer's ad-free anyway, but it's...
Yeah, but the thing is, that might be worth getting, because ITV and Channel 4 players spam you with so many ads, and it's really, really frustrating. So, I mean, that might be worth doing for the Channel 4 and ITV.
True, and I know also because all the old classic Doctor Who's, which are like ridiculously expensive on DVD, are now all on BritBox. Like, that's one of their main draws at the moment.
Well, that's good.
But yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm not sure what's on BritBox that isn't on other places. Because BBC's still got most of their stuff up on iPlayer.
Yeah.
I think Channel 4's got all their stuff. So maybe it's just the same like duplicated library, just without ads. Then.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean that is interesting because. That might be worth a look in, because like one of the main reasons I don't really use the Channel 4 one is because there is so many adverts. And you know, even on a show that would have one ad break, they could put 3 or 4 ad breaks in it, and it's like, this is just completely unnecessary, and I just hate it. The other thing is, it's the same ad. It's like it will have a block of 4 adverts and put that in your 30-minute long show 4 times. It's like, why? Leave
So I
me
never
alone.
had it that bad. It's normally, but in my experience, it generally lines up with the advert breaks. But of course, there's like a lot. There's like I think 2 minutes unskippable ads beforehand, and then there's some afterwards, which all strikes me as weird. Who sits to watch adverts after a video's finished?
Yeah,
But
strange.
yeah, I don't mind sitting for a couple minutes of adverts to get unlimited free content. But I mean, I suppose that's like a thing some people might want. So that's fair enough. Also, I imagine you probably don't need the license fee for BritBox. I would assume.
Yeah, that would be the other thing. If you're paying a subscription fee, probably wouldn't have to.
And then and then if it is $5.99 a month, that would work out cheaper to just pay BritBox rather than a TV license. So I can see there are some benefits in it.
Yeah, and also if they put the stuff from UK TV Play on there, I might go for that as well. Because stuff like Taskmaster, again, just absolutely spammed with ads.
Although Taskmaster has been bought by Channel 4 now.
Has it actually?
So, yeah. So that might now be included, at least for new series, on BritBox. I believe that. I've definitely read that somewhere. I think that's happening.
It's no longer on Dave.
Yeah. It's a shame because it's like, Dave's like, here's this one new original series we've created, which is going to, it's going to be our tentpole, and Channel 4 is like, yeah, we'll have that.
So
Can't
rude.
have you competing.
Oh, poor Dave.
Poor Dave. Well, they got Red Dwarf.
And apparently some of the new seasons are quite good.
Yeah, they're not bad. I mean, it doesn't reach the same heights as, Series 1 of Red Dwarf or Series 5, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's semi-decent.
Yeah, it's better than Back to Earth.
Yeah, that one was weird.
Yeah, or Series 7, which isn't great.
I don't think I've seen that. Anyway,
How much of Red... Wait,
okay. Should we move on from Red Dwarf?
Oh, no, I'm happy to have a Red Dwarf conversation.
Because we want to move on to...
Yeah. Okay.
The next recommendation.
The big hit show
and
everyone's talking about.
I want to have a talk about it. The Tiger King.
Woo!
Madness, Mayhem and Murder? Is that what it's called? Or is it Murder, Mayhem and Madness? I think it's
some
Madness,
combination
Mayhem
of
and
those
Murder.
words.
Yeah, some
Do you want me to look
combination
it
of
up for you?
those 3 things. So
Murder, Mayhem and Madness.
there we go, I got
That's
it
the
right.
order. Yeah.
I knew Mayhem was in the middle. Anyway.
They're in reverse alphabetical order.
Yes.
There we go.
So,
That's how you remember. Anyway,
The
go
Tiger
on.
King. This series is fantastic. I want to say it's so good because of how unbelievably mental it is. And it's crazy. So it's about the big cat owners and exhibitionists in America, North America, focusing mainly on Joe Exotic, who owns a zoo with I think it's 227 big cats.
Yeah, it was something. So it's only over 200 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's called the Tiger King because he owns, a stupid amount of tigers. Because he, and it's about basically...
More tigers than any one man should have.
Yeah, and it's about him, but it's also, by extension, about the other big cat people in America. Because there's, quite a few of these big zoos and they're all really weird people. Yeah. But then more, because there's so much to it. There's 7 episodes.
It's the kind of show that just gets weirder and weirder the more you watch of it.
It's just completely mad. So it's also about Carol Baskin, because she owns she calls it a big cat sanctuary, but she's dodgy as well.
Oh.
Anyway, but we'll
okay.
get onto it.
Well, I've got words to say about Carol Baskin, as I'm sure most people do.
Yeah, but yeah, she. It's about basically Joe Exotic's trial as well, because he's in prison, which isn't a spoiler because it's real life.
and also it's shown in the first episode.
Yes.
So you sort of know it's one of those great things where you know eventually where it's heading. It's trying to piece together how he ended up there. And then by episode 4, you're like, you know what? I can see how he ended up in prison.
Yeah, he is insane. Like, he's absolutely mad. Well, so there's the recommendation. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it because it's really, really good. It's absolutely mad. Very, very entertaining.
It's one of those documentaries where, you know, reality is stranger than fiction kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, it just gets so bizarre and sort of spirals out of control in just a very crazy way. But it's like, it's one of those things where you can imagine, like, it's so crazy and yet we'd never know about it unless this documentary was made.
Yeah.
And you sort of wonder if the documentarians knew what they were getting themselves in for when they started it.
Yeah. It's just mad. Like, but yeah, there's the recommendation. Because now I want to talk about a lot of it. So, gonna give a big spoiler warning.
Okay, how much are you going to do? Because I've only done the first 4 episodes.
Right. Well, mostly what I want to talk about is how they make the series. And there is a couple of bits that might be spoilery. Okay, I won't talk about it as much as I want to. Maybe we can do a spoiler corner on it next week.
Yeah, okay. So this will be a general rambles for now.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll avoid the spoilery bits. But yeah, I mostly just want to talk about how they make it. Because one thing that's particularly excellent about this documentary is how very good they are at manipulating your emotions.
Right.
The makers of documentary are, I think, just brilliant at showing you the exact right clips, playing the right, music, putting things in the right order to make you think a very certain way. And I think they are masterful at that. Basically, the way they film it, like how many different techniques they use, because they use like every single technique of making a documentary like I've ever seen before. It's crazy. So normally for a documentary, there are things called documentary modes.
Yes, I remember these well.
You may remember.
Well,
Yeah.
I remember some of them well.
Which is basically sort of the 6 different, the modes of like that you can sort of fit documentaries into.
They're sort of the genres of documentary in a way, aren't they?
Yeah. So, but this one, the Tiger King somehow fits into almost every single mode of making it. So it's amazing how they managed to do it, I think. Just because it's just very, very good documentary making, if that's what you think of it. So there's a big argument when you talk about a documentary is you need to talk about the truth. Right?
There's sort of perceived objectivity to documentaries, which is entirely fallacy.
Yeah. No documentary can be 100% objectively true. It's just impossible.
Yeah.
You can't. It can't happen.
Just that's the nature of documentation in the first place, is, choosing what to focus on, yeah.
But then, so what some documentaries try to do is be as truthful as possible. So, for example, if we look at Senna,
yes,
by Asclepiadia, which is another brilliant documentary.
One of my all-time favourite films. So
what Asclepiadia does, his attempt to get to the closest to the truth is he only uses archive footage.
With no voiceovers or anything else shot specifically for it. It's all,
all archive footage. He went through thousands of hours of Ayrton Senna's life, basically, and stitched it together to make this documentary. So that's a good way of getting to the truth, because he didn't have to fabricate anything. He chose stuff that already existed and put it together. But then the argument there is he chose what order they went in. He chose what to show and what not to show. So it still isn't objectively the truth.
And
you
in
know?
Senna, there's this sort of construction of Alain Prost as this sort of like bitter rival, when in real life they probably weren't as against each other as the documentary has shown them to be. So it's picking and choosing to make a effective antagonist for the story.
Yeah.
Which is basically the same principle for all documentaries, essentially.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, whereas this uses... so to give another example on top of that, Michael Moore, he makes documentaries all the time. So Fahrenheit 9/11, Bowling for Columbine, he's made loads of documentaries. He's very, infamous and famous for making them.
And being quite provoking with them as well, and deliberately sort of trying to provoke responses from the people he's making documentaries on.
So what I mean, a lot of people argue that his version of documentary making is quite far away from the truth because he's so
subjective.
Provoking.
Yeah,
he's so subjective.
Because he's very much like the presenter of his documentaries, and he sort of narrates them, and he sort of very much shows it from how he sees it.
Exactly, yeah. He's very, very much a key figure in his documentaries because you see him asking all the questions. The other thing is you get a lot of reverse shots of him then asking the questions, and it's like they obviously had time. They've only got one camera, and they had time to set up the shot to ask the guy the question, and then have another time to then do the reverse shot. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a very famous interview with Charlton Heston.
Yes,
Charlton
Heston.
Yeah.
Of Planet of the Apes fame.
Yeah. Of because he's a big gun man. Whatever.
Is he the president of the NRA, or was he just a big supporter of it?
I think he was a big supporter. I don't know if he was president, but he was big involved. Anyway, Michael Moore. So the camera's pointed at Charlton Heston. Michael Moore saying, "Oh, look at this picture of this girl. She got killed in, a school shooting or whatever, and the NRA did nothing or whatever. And it's, this is meant to be the climax of the film." And then Charlton Heston's basically, get out of my house. And it's like, that's fine. But then they show, obviously they didn't leave straight away because they have time to do the reverse shot of Michael Moore, holding up the photo and waving it at his face. Like, if that was real or live or whatever, and Charlton Heston's like, "Get the fuck out of my house,"
there wouldn't be a reverse shot. They would have had to just go.
Yeah, exactly.
He wouldn't have stayed around to be like, "Yeah, all right, I'll help you do the other side."
But the Tiger King uses so many of these techniques. So the documentarian, I can't remember his name, but he's in it.
Yeah.
Not frequently, but
no, he's there. So I remember in the first episode, he's there a couple of times when he seems to sort of take more of a backseat as it goes on. It seems,
but he definitely comes back towards the end as well, because there's a lot of it where he, you see him asking the questions. You get a lot of the documentarian on the phone talking to someone. You get a lot of him behind the camera, but still asking questions very audibly. And him holding the camera, pointing at things. You can see his hands and stuff. It's like, that's interesting, because he's obviously very much there, very much manipulating the scene to be what he wants to show.
Yeah.
The other thing is there is no given time frame for when it's filmed.
No, I remember there was a vague mention of, like, I think they started it 5 years ago or something. Because I know there was because he's in prison now, and there was an idea that was 4 years or so after when, like, the rest of the documentary was filmed or something, as I recall.
But then that makes me think, like, if they've been filming for that long, they must have, and they do have, like, a lot of video evidence of them, of Joe Exotic and all the others committing the crimes that they do, and it's like, surely, if you have that on file, you just show that or whatever. You do something with that.
Well, I mean, they put it out on Netflix where everyone's seen it, so in some way they have done. It's sort of brought it to light.
There's a big part of it's. This is, I don't know what part this is in. I don't want to spoil it, so I won't say that bit. Okay. But there's a big bit that's really made me think. Well, hold on a second, because this person said this, and they've given it as a conviction of being absolutely true, but you've shown things previously in the documentary that shows he's not true.
Yeah.
It's like, who are you trying to make this man? Obviously, they want this man. They're trying to show him in a positive light, but then they've literally showed footage before that shows that, you know, this thing that this man has said is wrong, and it's like, well, that's the other thing. Like the I don't want to say the side the documentary is on. You know what angle it's going for, constantly changing. I think.
Well, it seems for the most part like
Actually,
it's trying to support.
Whole thing.
Well, it seems to me at least, the documentary seems it's more or less. I don't know if this changes in the last couple of episodes, but it seems to be more or less on Joe Exotic's sort of side, and like, you know, against Carol Baskin. But it does sort of start to shift away from that. You say, or you reckon it's more on Carol Baskin's side then, or just not no one's side?
I think it's on no one's side. I think it's an expose trying to show that the whole world of these exotic cat owners is crazy, including Carol Baskin, you know, because it does sort of align you with Joe Exotic, but then I think it's almost satirical in a way.
Yeah. Well, I think like
showing how fucking messed up he is and how crazy he is and how weird he is, especially that bit. Don't know if you've seen this yet, but it's like, oh yeah, he really loves guns, and there's a bit of him Joe Exotic with a drawn gun that's loaded, pointing at the cameraman.
Yes, I do remember that bit.
Walks straight up to the cameraman, fires a bullet like right next to his head, and it's like, oh my god, this man is insane.
Well, that's the thing. 'Cause on the bit I've done, this is the whole thing with him deliberately infringing copyright of Carol Baskin's place to sort of make a point, and then he gets stuck in like millions of pounds of legal fees, and it's sort of ruining him. And like at that point, at least, it feels like while this documentary started more or less on sort of Joe Exotic's side, by this point we're sort of starting to drift away, and it's like, no, look, he's an idiot and also insane. Like it's starting to detach more from him. In the same way as I was sort of writing about with Joker and how it sort of starts on his side and then starts to gravitate away from him and look at him from a more sort of distance. I think Tiger King is doing something similar. Again, I'm not quite sure how it ends, but I'm imagining it sort of continues on that trajectory.
See, it's interesting because I don't know whether it's just Joe Exotic, but he's very hard not to feel like sorry for him.
Yeah, I think the thing is he's just a very charismatic character is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but he's very charismatic, and I don't know, he gets really wound up very quickly, and it like he ruins his life basically.
Yeah,
and it's like, I don't know.
He sort of lets his temper get the best of him and sort of his pettiness, yeah.
But then is that what they want you to think? Because at the end of the day, he is in jail for his crimes. Like, he's not a good person. It's like, but then, I don't know. It feels weird. They bring up some really interesting points because it gets you to think a very certain way, and then it will twist it suddenly and get you to think the opposite way, you know?
Right,
I think that was very interesting, especially with Carol Baskin.
I was gonna say with the
yeah, go on.
Oh, with the because in the second episode towards the end, it's sort of talking about Carol and like it's like, oh yeah, she's done some things, she's done all this, and then oh yeah, and she probably killed her husband. And it's like, sorry, what? And then it's like, yeah, she definitely probably killed her husband. And then the episode just sort of ends. It's like, oh, that's it brings it up so suddenly. And then the next episode is entirely about this whole conspiracy that she's killed her husband and fed him to the tigers or put him in the septic tank. And like this is just a subplot of the series as well. And it's like such a big sort of like such a shocking moment. But the way it's introduced is so sort of like offhand.
Yes. But there's so many little subplots about this that weren't necessary. Like, so much of it hasn't got anything to do with Joe Exotic.
Yeah.
Like, there's a whole episode dedicated to Carol Baskin. There's a whole episode dedicated to John Lowe.
Yeah.
You know, of these other things that have gone on. There's episodes dedicated to, you know, but completely different things that have nothing to do with the actual story. I think they only are there to change your mind about certain people.
Right. Okay, that's an interesting idea.
because the whole Carol Baskin thing, in the first episode, she is fully presented, I think, to be the good guy, and you're like, oh, okay, that's obviously the protagonist, and Joe Exotic's going to be the antagonist. But then I think it's the third episode that is about her missing husband case. Like, that serves entirely to show her in a completely new perspective, you know?
See, that's interesting, because I never liked Carol Baskin, and like from the beginning, she felt like the antagonist. But I don't know if that's just because there's this because the whole thing about protagonist and antagonist is there's this thing in Greek theatre where it all started, like protagonist was the first person on stage kind of thing, and the antagonist was the second person under the stage. So like in that principle, I was like, I naturally thought, okay, Joe Exotic's the first person we see, he's our protagonist, and then his rival is Carol's, who's going to be the antagonist. So I don't know if it's just simply like the order they were introduced, but I never felt in any way that Carol was like a good person, you know, and like the protagonist.
I feel like she is, because well, in the first episode at least, this gets a bit more dicey the further you go on. But I feel like the way she's introduced, because, you know, she's like, she has the big cat sanctuary, and she's dedicated her entire life to trying to save big cats, and she's trying to pass these laws that's gonna, you know, ban abuse of animals, basically.
Well, see, this is the thing that that really sort of like, well, not triggered me, but like I found really bizarre and sort of infuriating about her character was she was like, oh yes, I've got this sanctuary for cats, and I save all the big cats from these other awful zoos which lock up the cats in cages and make visitors interact with them. No, I take all these cats and put them in my sanctuary and put them in cages where visitors can look at them. It's like, okay, well that means your sanctuary is exactly the same as every other person's zoo, except your cages are smaller. Like, there's no attempt to rehabilitate them or stop them. You're just building a rival sanctuary under the guise of it's a sanctuary and it's caring. That's why I didn't like it. That's why I don't think she's a protagonist. She's just as bad as the others, but she's manipulative about it.
Yeah, that's what. But she is always under the guise of doing good work, you know.
But that's why I think she's worse. Like, Joe Exotic's like, no, okay, this is my tiger, not farm. Zoo. This is my zoo. You know, I'm very open about here's my tigers. I like them, but like I use them as my business, and that's my income. And he's very open about that. While Carol tries to pretend she cares about the animals, but she's doing exactly the same thing, and she's a hypocrite for it. And that's why I was at no point on her side, because that's introduced quite early on. I remember.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you did it the other way.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's all up to interpretation.
Exactly. Like all great art is.
I feel like I don't know, she is a better person. I think she is really dodgy. Because there's a whole bit about, so there's the other guy, I think his name's Don. I can't remember. He's got a white beard and like a cowboy hat or whatever. He's a really creepy dude.
Right.
He's got, you know, like 3 wives or something.
Yeah.
He was so weird, but you could tell he was brilliant in front of the camera. But, you know, you could tell he was very, very used to being interviewed and owning the interview, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, he was sort of very comfortable with the sort of in his own skin and with being on camera and stuff. Yeah, that's sort of.
Also, he knows what makes a good shot, and he was like, "Oh, do you want a shot of me watching this interview, and then I can turn to the camera and react to it?"
Yeah,
and you know, even the very first time he's introduced, he's like, "Oh, okay, do you want me to go back indoors and come welcome you into my home?" And they were like, "Yeah, that'd be great." It's like he is straight away.
He's a showman.
He's a showman, but he's also manipulating people to make himself look like a good person.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean. Like, and he does it brilliantly, I think.
And the documentary exposes that he is doing it. Yeah.
So I remember what I was going to.
Okay.
Yeah. I was going to talk about how much they pay their employees.
Right.
So it's like that guy who's called Don. I can't remember. He pays his employees $100 a week, and they are doing 12. 14-hour days every single day. They don't get
crazy,
a day off.
Yeah.
Like that. We worked it out, and it's roughly like $1 an hour.
It's not sub minimum wage.
And then, well, yeah, I mean it must be, but
yeah,
I don't know. Obviously, they're getting away with it.
Yeah.
And Joe Exotic was paying his people $150 a week, and you're like, oh my god, that's terrible, which works out to about like $1.30 an hour or something like that. It's like, oh, that's slightly better than this other guy, but that's still terrible.
That's still way too low.
Yeah. But then it cuts to Carol Baskin. Carol Baskin's like, oh yeah, all of our employees are volunteers.
Yeah.
And it's
so I don't
like,
have to pay them anything.
Well, hold on. Yeah, exactly. You don't pay them anything. All they get is a different coloured shirt. And that really made me look differently at her. Because it's like, Joe Exotic was like, oh yeah, pay them $150 a week because that's all I can afford to pay them. And he employs like ex-cons and homeless people off the street. He's like, do you want to, I'll give you a job and I'll give you somewhere to live. I was like, that's actually a really nice thing for him to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's like cheap labour for him, but that's still an inherently a good thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's that scene of him, he goes up to a homeless woman at a gas station. He was like, do you want a job? And she's like, yes. And he's like, do you want somewhere to live? She's like, yeah. And he's like, cool, come with me. It's like, that's, I mean...
That would not work in most people, surely.
No, but that is still a nice thing to do, isn't it? Whereas Carol Baskin's like, works volunteers only, works them just as hard.
Yeah.
And it's like
volunteering for 12-hour days.
Top ranking, yeah, but if you want to be a top ranking volunteer, the blue shirts or whatever they were, it's like, oh yeah, you've got to have at least 2 years here and like 1,000 hours or something stupid like that. It's like, how can you expect someone to dedicate their entire life to you and not pay them anything?
Yeah.
And that's just...
So, because then she's got the thing about like, oh, I'm doing good, it's a sanctuary and it's all la-di-da-di-da, and therefore it's like, oh, so I can get away with volunteering because it's like not for profit, even though it almost certainly is for profit.
Well, it is for profit because she lives in a bloody mansion.
Exactly. It's just, that's why the whole thing about like, oh, it's a sanctuary, I'm caring for them annoys me so much because like, it clearly isn't.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, then turning that around to Joey Essex.
Joey Essex? When did he get involved in the documentary? I haven't got to that bit yet.
Joe Exotic. Christ. Joe Exotic.
Yeah.
He also lives in a mansion, but makes his employees live on like terrible mobile homes.
Yeah. But again, at least he's sort of upfront about it in a way.
Old Walmart meat, you know.
Yeah. But I thought the thing about the sort of off meat from Walmart and stuff was actually like really good, because obviously there's a lot of food wastage in that industry, and like he's right, a lot of it is perfectly good, so why not use it, you know? Yeah. So yeah, again, like that to me paints him as like a good person in a way.
I mean, yeah. I think we should also point out that he is not a good person.
Oh no one in this documentary
is a bad person.
Yeah, everyone in the documentary to some degree is not good, and because within the world documentary, certain people rise up as being better than others, even though truly they are all in their own cesspit.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil anything, but there is a very poignant moment in the last episode.
Okay.
Where it's sort of, it's finished the whole thing, and it gives its sort of final statement.
Right. Well, I don't want to
ruin it.
I'll finish the series. I'll
Yeah.
finish over the weekend, and we'll have a spoiler corner about it next week, and we'll discuss some other moments as well. Yeah.
Just because there's some really, really good bits in there, but for the other documentary things, like there's some fly on the wall bits where they've just set up a camera somewhere and they are recording stuff.
Mm.
But there's also loads of talking heads. And those other things, it's so manipulative because you have no idea when they filmed, how long they filmed for.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Sometimes you don't know where they are.
Because this potential 5-year span, they could have been like moving along, around the timeline, and we don't really know when or where that's happening. Yeah.
Well, there's a interesting bit I noticed in the later episodes. They have an interview with I think she's a news reporter, and she was like the sole reporter for the Joe Exotic court case. But where they've set her up for her talking head, there's a clock in the background.
Okay.
And you can see how they have during this interview, the way they've cut it together, I was just watching the clock because it's obviously
Like in The
they've
Simpsons.
taken a bit from. Well,
Yeah.
they've taken a bit from 15 minutes earlier and stitched it onto this bit that's she's just said like 15 minutes later and made it one flowing bit to manipulate what she's actually said into saying what they want her to say, if you know what I mean.
That's interesting, because
And
the
I
fact that
feel
they
like
left
they
the
must-
clock in, that seems like such a rookie mistake. I wonder, maybe is that a deliberate sort of, to point to the construction of it all?
I mean, possibly. I don't know.
Or is that
Well,
too meta
it's
for this
just
documentary?
That makes me want to think like they must have done that so much, so frequently, and so
Yeah.
often throughout the whole documentary. It's like how much of this can be relied on.
You think they'd at least
There's
sort of...
another thing.
I was going to say, do you think they'd at least like blur out the clock and like do a sort of a vignette of some kind? If they're like, that seems like such a strange thing to leave in.
Yeah,
Like such a
I
glaring.
don't know.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say is they interview this man a lot. He's got no legs, if you remember him.
Yes, I do remember him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't remember his name.
They interview him a lot. But if you notice, he is interviewed, and he's interviewed in 3 different locations.
Right.
But they will have an interview with him, or they'll have an insert of him, and then they'll show a clip, and they'll have an insert from him, and he's in a different location. It's like, okay, they've obviously gone back to him and said, we want you to talk about this specifically, please, because your last interview wasn't manipulative enough. Or,
Yeah, you
whatever.
didn't say what we wanted you to
Weird.
say in that interview. Yeah.
But it definitely feels like that because of how much. And there's another man called James Garrison. I don't know if you've met him yet.
I couldn't tell you from the name.
He's
I'm very bad of
interviewed
names.
Yeah, he's interviewed in like 4 or 5 different places. They've even got some like undercovers. Obviously, the camera is hidden, and they're interviewing anyway. It's like they've just put that together wherever they want because. And it could mean anything. They've manipulated it so well into their narrative.
Yeah.
And I think you've just got to be very wary of that, especially when watching this. Anyway, we talked about Tiger King for absolutely ages.
Yeah.
Should we? We'll come back to it because
Yeah, there's
there
definitely
was
more
so
to talk
much
about.
excellent stuff there.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
this documentary is brilliant, and you should. Yeah, we'll move on.
Okay. So, I think that's the end of the episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unless you've got any other points you've forgotten to make.
No.
No? Okay. So you've
Just
been
one more thing.
Okay. You've been listening to Ciné Rambles with Nick.
And Andrew.
You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/CinéRamblesOfficial, and you can follow us on Twitter at Ciné Rambles, and you can read the blog for more content at cinerambles.blogspot.com. And hopefully there'll be another post up sometime this month. I'm currently working on one, so stay tuned for that. And if you'd like to send in any thoughts or reviews or responses to our episodes, you can send us an email at cinerambles@gmail.com for a chance to be read out on the show. Any final remarks then?
Carol Baskin killed her fucking husband.
You heard it here second. Goodbye.
Goodbye.